My presentation today at the conference focused on family disintegration. So I looked at different trends and patterns we see of family disintegration around the world and ways that they compare to trends that we see in Arab nations, ways that there's similarities, but also some ways that there's some significant differences and contrasts. Most of the research on family disintegration focuses on the decline that we see in family structure, particularly in Western countries, in North America, in Europe, and other parts of the world, and ways that this is creating negative consequences for child well-being. So in particular, as we've seen patterns of an increase in non-marital childbirth rates, we see an increase in divorce, we see increase in patterns of non-marital cohabitation, have led to increasing patterns of children being raised in a context where they're not raised by their biological parents. As this happens and this occurs, what we see is children in fragile family forms, and they're exposed to more and more likelihood of living below the poverty line and other areas of struggle. So I suggested towards the end of my presentation the types of factors we need to look at to address family disintegration and ways that we can strengthen families. We have to encourage these patterns around strong family structure and children being born inside of the context of marriage in ways that helps them have the benefits of family stability. But most of the research in recent years emphasizes that it's not just structure, but we need to look at process. So we look at the process of marital strengths and the ways that husbands and wives strengthen and unify inside of the marriage, and then also ways that they engage in effective parenting patterns of both nurturing and giving guidance to their children. Towards the end of my presentation, we also highlighted and talked about issues around paradigms. There are growing modern paradigms today that are changing and they are being exported to other cultures and situations. And these are often the whys behind the whats that is happening. So we see an increase in secularization. So we see a decrease in people's religious affiliation, an increase in individualization or individualism. We also see patterns of an increase in hedonism and materialism. As these paradigms increase, we tend to have more of an individual focus rather than a family focus in our cultures, and it's often our children and the least advantaged in our societies that are having those impacts and those consequences. So the recommendations for us are to emphasize and address the messages around those types of things, and to ultimately find ways to make child-centered cultures that focus on the proper paradigms, ways that we have a familyism and an approach to the strengths of marriage and family, but also have stable family forms and family structures that then can foster the needed process for us to have good child outcomes that are tied to children having both the presence of positive in their life, but also the absence of negative. As we do this, we'll be better able to address issues of family disintegration.